Hello, welcome back to Emerge, the health podcast for busy, high performing women. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Swenson Ridley. Today, I want to talk about, we're heading into the holidays, and this is the time of year where I find myself doing a lot of kind of introspection and thinking and, completing my year and kind of looking at the year ahead. And one of the things that I did recently, I wanted to apply more to kind of our audience, and it's around weight loss. I know this is like a huge thing for most of our listeners, for most of the women I work with, is a lot of frustration around being able to lose weight. And this month, several of the interviews that I have either released or coming up are kind of geared at this conversation as well. But what I wanted to bring attention to, and where I got this idea from, is this idea of rewriting our weight loss story. And most of us, our experience of life, it consists of a narrative that we tell ourselves an experience, and a lot of it runs subconsciously. So it's not really present for us, like in the forefront of our mind. And many of us, it's buried deep. And part of how we start to transform and really make changes that we can see on the outside is by rewriting some of that subconscious narrative that's going on in our head, especially that which is disempowering. And I know for myself and for just about every woman I've worked with, there can be a lot of disempowering conversation and stuff going on in our head, limiting beliefs that we have around our bodies, around our body image, around our ability to lose weight. And all of that holds us back from actually achieving our goals. This is not to negate any of the other stuff I talk about, like, hormones being off and stress and all that. That needs to be understood and worked on as well. However, if you're missing this piece of the pie, I can pretty much guarantee, I'm basing this not on having done any like solid actual objective research, but just on my experience of the world. I can guarantee that we stay stuck on a cycle, and maybe you lose some weight, but it always comes back, and you kind of stay stuck in this place where it's never good enough, you're never good enough, your body's never good enough, you're never pretty enough, you're never small enough. Any of those things, like those conversations keep running in our heads and our lives, no matter what size we are, or shape we are, or any of that. So what I want to talk about today is how we rewrite that narrative around, maybe we shouldn't even call it weight loss. We should just call it like rewriting our body story, right? Or our body image story. And how we're going to do this. So where I got this from is I actually recently did this activity. I actually took a course around doing this around money and wealth. And you can apply this concept to pretty much any area of life. You can do it around relationships. You can do it around anything. But I wanted to key in and kind of focus on, because I know that's body image, weight, all of that it's a big area for most of you who are listening. Even if you aren't overweight, and many of us still struggle with having these negative narratives running in our subconscious and kind of limiting beliefs and all of this stuff that just keeps us down and playing small and not being the awesome women that we are. So here's how we're going to approach this. What I want you to do, and this, some of this actually comes from some of the stuff I've been studying in my PhD program recently, but I'm going to kind of teach you. And this might be an episode that maybe you're either going to like take mental note of how to do this, or you go back and listen to when you're not driving or something, just because, I'm going to teach you how to get to a place of relaxation really quickly. And then from there, we're going to kind of take a journey back through our lives and getting into where this narrative really stems from, and any beliefs we have around what our body should look like and our body image and why we're not good enough and all that stuff. So what you're going to do, not when you're driving, but when you can actually just sit and relax, is you're going to take, 3 deep breaths. And as you breathe in, you're going to say, so, and then when you breathe out, you say hum. And this is actually how, if you've ever heard babies breathe, this is how they breathe. So you're going to do that about 3 times, and just doing that. And, you want to breathe with your belly and kind of feel your belly rise, but you're going to, so hum, I got to time it right there. So you're going to do that 3 times. And then I just want, you should be relaxed at that point, and you're just going to travel back and walk back through. I want you to go back to the earliest memory you have where you noticed your body was different, or you remember for the first time feeling like you looked differently, or you had some negative thought about yourself, right? In terms of how you look. And go back to this. And I think for many of us, I know for me, I was about 8, I believe, and it was at the pool in the summer with a bunch of kids, and I remember wanting to hide my midsection because I had a little pooch, and somehow I decided that was different, and that somehow I didn't look like the other kids. And I hit puberty really early, which was part of that. I actually started my period when I was 9. So I was heading in that direction, and I just, that's the first memory I have. And in that you just want to pay attention to, like, what did I decide in that moment? Like, I decided I was different. I decided that my body was too big and needed to be smaller. I decided that I was never going to look like the other kids, never going to be like the other kids, especially when I then got my, hit my menstrual cycle and all of that really young, before I even knew what any of that stuff was. So, take that journey back for yourself. What are the first memories that come up? And kind of spend some time. You might need to journal with this. You might not be able to just kind of sit in relaxation around this, but you want to spend some time really looking at and trying to figure out, like, what is it that I started to, what belief did I form? What limiting belief did I hold? Some of it may have come from, watching a lot of us watching our moms, or, I have a lot of conversation that came from my dad as well. But I think, my mom is someone who was in that generation where, she was never good enough, never pretty enough, never thin enough, never any of those things. And so there's always like this weird competitiveness, especially around, like, when I've lost weight. I can find it really triggering to have conversations with her, because it's, I feel like she's judging me somehow, or like I have to, say sorry that I lost weight to her, because she puts it in this weird context. So, and I've obviously still got some stuff to work around this for myself as well. But you just want to start spending the time there, and then go from that earliest memory and kind of just walk through time to, when's the next time, and what is the next limiting belief that came up for you, or comes up for you, or that has been there. And as you spend time doing this, like when I did this with around wealth and money, I actually journaled and just I typed so I could refer back to it later. And you might want to do that with this as well. Like I suggest you get into that place of relaxation, like allow yourself to really key into what emotions come up, like where does your conversation around weight loss, all that stuff, really start to surface, and kind of that icky, like negative, bad feelings or frustration or any of the emotions that can come with that. And I don't want you to sit there forever and stay there, but we want to get to what did you decide about yourself, or what beliefs do you have about yourself that are running in the background? Because until we get those out, and until we kind of start to transform that, and how we do that is first by making the unconscious conscious, right? We have to become aware of them and write about them. And, I found this really, like, not necessarily inspiring at first, but it was freeing to finally get out, all this negative garbage and stuff that, like, deep down we know isn't true, right? But it still runs in the background because we've collected evidence over time to say, convince ourselves that this is true. So we're going to do that. And then kind of the next piece of this, if any of you find this really triggering and want to, like, talk this out, I'm totally open and available to do that. My email is in the show notes, so just shoot me an email. This isn't like anything. I would be happy to connect with you, because some of you might be triggered by something. And what I was going to share is, there are steps we can take when we're triggered. I'm not going to call it the best. One of those is to actually give that moment less power, we'll say, in your life. And so how we do that is, you can take a snapshot, like in your mind, just, you can make a clicking noise if you want, or, pretend like you're clicking a phone, because we don't really click cameras anymore. But, take a snapshot of it and make it still, of whatever that moment is that brings up a lot of emotion. And then you want to visualize yourself stepping in front of it and make it black and white. So don't give it color anymore. If there's noise associated with it, you either want to make it really, really quiet, or speed it up so fast that you can't actually tell what's going on or what's being said in the moment. And then you just move yourself in front of it. And that, if you do this enough times, and, just kind of practice visualizing this and doing all those steps. So taking a snapshot and quieting it down or speeding it up so that you can't understand what's being said, and making it black and white, it starts to hold less power and impact on us. And you want to go through your whole timeline of history, doing this. This is not a quick and dirty experience, but you can write about it, you can visualize in your mind, you can, spend some time meditating on it, relaxing, whatever is going to work for you. On the other side of that, when you're really clear that you've dug into every limiting belief you have about yourself, your body, your weight, your ability to lose weight, how other people see you, how your clothes fit, all of that stuff, like what makes you different, all of it, when you've got all those limiting beliefs out, and I would write those down. Then we're going to take some time, and this might take you a couple days to do, right? Like, this is finding the time and the space to really actually go through and do this. Then you're going to spend some time taking each of those limiting beliefs, and we're going to flip it and make an empowering belief instead. And you might need to do something called bridging, where maybe you just find a small thing. Like, for example, if your limiting belief is like, I'm ugly and nobody's ever going to love me, maybe you can't believe that you're beautiful yet, but you can say, my eyes are a really nice color. So I'm going to say, I love my eyes and other people love my eyes. Something like that. But a bridge where you start to make the disempowering and limiting and, negative stuff that's running in the background and turn it into something positive. And that can be a challenge. And again, reach out if any of you need help with this. This is something that those, if you're listening and we're working together, we're going to work on this together, because this is a new thing. But for those who just kind of tune into the podcast, I'm giving you the steps and the process to go through this on your own. And definitely reach out if you need help with that. From there, it's one thing, and this is where I think a lot of us get hung up on, visualizing and just imagine good things, and all the good things are going to flow to you in the world. And there is, there's some truth in when we shift our energy and shift what's running in our subconscious, it can, law of attraction does start to, you start to notice the good things. I think it's more what that is. However, and whatever we focus on is what we attract more of, right? So if you're totally focused on being frustrated because you never lose weight, guess what you get more of? You're more frustrated and never lose weight. And so if we can shift that to focusing on, I love and accept myself and am losing weight and life is great, like, that will be the experience that you start to have, because you start naturally kind of doing the things that take you in that direction. Where I'm going with this and what I wanted to share is, it's one thing to do all this work and like have this new set of beliefs and then be like, okay, cool, and never do anything with it. Our brain needs repetition to actually make something a pattern, and it needs to repeat it at least 3 times, and probably more than that with things that are really stuck in our, subconscious as, running our lives. And these conversations that we have about our bodies and our image and our weight and all that are definitely some of these. So from there, whether you read yourself affirmations every morning, or you find I have tons of resources and books and stuff around like shifting mindset and doing that. Maybe you meditate and kind of run through the things that you are now going to believe, right? We're shifting our beliefs, but you have to practice it in order for your brain to finally accept it and for you to accept it as real. And so this is where we're bringing the unconscious conscious, and then building a new story that can run in the background that is empowering and uplifting and has us being our best selves. So with that, I'm kind of bringing a whole bunch of stuff that I've learned recently onto this episode, and I hope that it makes sense and is helpful and beneficial. I'm giving you some kind of deep tools to really work on retraining your brain, because the more and more I both learn on my own and in working with the women that I work with privately and in group settings, I can give people diets all day long. We can do all the gut cleansing and supplements and do the, labs and all. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't important. It absolutely is, makes a huge difference. However, the difference that I've seen in the women who really succeed on a huge level and those who, get some good results, but maybe aren't like totally there, is entirely in the realm of mindset and in uncovering those, hidden beliefs, and not hidden, but the stuff that's running in the background. I've said before and shared, 92% of our brain, what our brain does, our brain activity, is actually unconscious, and only about 8% is conscious. And so most of us are completely unaware of the stuff that's in the background that is driving us staying stuck or not getting forward or being frustrated, because it's the stuff that we're focusing on and we don't really know how to shift it. And this is the key to shifting that, whether it's your body image and your weight and all of that. And I'm like, it's not easy. We have to spend some time really unraveling and looking at all the layers of the onion and, moving through your timeline and taking those snapshots where you need to, and just putting stuff behind you and putting it to rest so that you can create new perspective and a new, like I said, narrative in terms of how your life runs. So to recap, you're going to get relaxed. You're going to journal about this. You're going to meditate on this. You're going to do whatever works for you. You can use the so hum kind of technique to get yourself into a relaxed state, ideally when you're not going to be interrupted for a little while. And you're just going to journey through like look at your life and what you can remember in terms of what happened that had you get to where you are right now in terms of your body, your weight, your beliefs around it, whatever you're going through, and then start to create that new narrative. First, get really clear on what all those limiting beliefs are, and I'll put an and there, and start to rewrite those into being a new, empowering, exciting thing. Like when I did this around my conversations with money and wealth and finances and all that, I was so excited by the time I got through. Like it was hard and I really had to think about a lot of them, and I'm like, ugh, like some of them I'm like, I don't even know where to start in terms of transforming that. And that's where, if anybody needs help with just coming up with like, what's the positive of this, because it's so strongly ingrained in me, I don't even know how to flip it. So please reach out if that's you. But as you start to do that, there's a lot of like freedom and energy and excitement and just other stuff that comes on the like other emotions and new things to focus on that I think you'll find really empowering and uplifting. So, kind of a different episode. I hope that this helps serve you and make sense, and that you take the time to kind of take this on and look at yourself in a new way. And for those of you who have goals of losing weight in 2022, I would start here. I'll just be honest. You will have far more success and finally get to see something new happen in that realm if you really take the time to dig into what is driving you unconsciously and take the time to make some changes there before you even try the next diet or the new, fad thing or any of that, because until you do, you're going to keep getting the same results because you're going to keep producing whatever you're focused on. And if you're focused on all the negatives and the bad things, all of that's going to follow you whether you're successful losing the weight or not. So with that, not quite the most inspiring note to end on, but I think you all understand me. I really look forward to, and this might be something that I lead in the free Facebook group kind of in the beginning of the year. So if you're not in that group, jump in. There's a link in the show notes as well. It's called Rejuvenated Women, Emergent Women. I changed it to match everything. So Emergent Women, it's the Emergent Women group, free group on Facebook. And I show up there live and do some of this stuff on there. So again, hopefully this helped serve you. Reach out if you have questions. This is all new for me too. My first time teaching some of this as well. And we will see you next week.